And I also wanted to just share these numbers to warn and protect everyone about the costs that are associated with having a house. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Reni, and on my channel I do fashion, finance, and lifestyle content. Today we're going to focus on real estate, which I think is a very big part of finance and financial literacy. So we're going to get into that today. If you are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and whether you are new or you are returning, please hit that like button as it really helps me with the algorithm. As many of you know, I purchased my first home in May of 2020. I closed on it then, and I got a lot of questions about like, how much does it cost? How much did it cost? Blah, 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 blah. When I first started the channel, honestly, I didn't want to expose all these numbers because I was kind of shy, but now obviously it's been a year, so I feel a lot more comfortable sharing these numbers. And I also wanted to just share these numbers to warn and protect everyone about the costs that are associated with having a house. I think that right now there's a lot of pressure and a lot of people saying, oh, buy a house, build generational wealth, do this, but no one really goes into like, a house is a very big deal. It's a huge purchase, one of the biggest in your life, and it costs a lot. There are a lot of additional costs other than the mortgage and the down payment. So I really wanted to emphasize and walk you through every single cost that I have that is associated with my property. If you see me looking down through this video, it's because I wrote down every single cost so I wouldn't forget anything. The reason I'm really doing this video is so that you don't end up house poor. I think there's a tendency to buy a house to keep up with the Joneses or to impress XYZ, or because you just feel like you need a house. But the reality is a house is a very big deal, and a lot of people buy houses that are way too expensive for them and then become house poor, which basically means, oh, I have a house, but it's taking most of my income to fund this house, and now I can't afford to enjoy my life. So these are the type of things that I want all of us to avoid, which is why I'm going through these details, so you can see how much a house truly costs. Again, this is my personal experience on what it costs for me. If you are in Toronto, I know there are more costs associated with like land transfer tax and things like that. So make sure you do your own research about where your house is specifically. So the house that I purchased was $347,000. We're gonna call it $350,000, and I will leave my walkthrough video up here if you want to watch it. So I'm gonna start off with the costs that come before you close on the property. My property is a pre-construction property, meaning that when I first went there, it wasn't completely finished, and then I had some time in order to save all the money before it would actually close, and I would get I would sign off and my name would be on the purchase. So just keep that in mind. If you are doing a resale property where it's a very quick turnaround, it may be a little bit different. So first, as a pre-construction property, you need to secure the property and secure your spot and say you want this spot by putting down a deposit for that property. So as I said, mine was $350K, and they were asking for a $10,000 deposit. And this was in 2019. So this was 2 years ago. It was in July of 2019 is when I put that deposit down, and it was $10,000 that they wanted. So you could either give them a check or a certified bank draft, something along those lines. And yeah, that's what we did, put down that money, and that basically secured your spot. You have 7 days, I believe, to say, okay, I no longer want this, or I do want it. But yeah, you put down that 10K, and then after those 7 days, I believe it is, they will cash in your check, and then you're officially locked in. I think it's important to know when you are doing pre-construction, ask for what conditions are, and read that contract that they give you. Like, read it in depth. Thankfully, my parents are lawyers, so they were able to read it for me. But go to your lawyer, read that contract. Like, there are things like assignment. If you don't want this property anymore, can you assign it to another person? Are you able to put tenants in your property? That's like, there are lots of questions that you need to ask, and you need to ensure that they are in the contract. The property was then ready for occupancy in September of 2019. So this means that it was built, it was finished and complete, and I could start putting tenants in the property. However, I still did not fully own the property because the builder was not yet ready to close. They were still finishing up the whole project. So my property was ready. I could put tenants in there, but it was not ready to close, so I did not own it. And during this time, this is called the occupancy period, and what you do is you pay an occupancy fee every month. So it's basically like you're paying rent to the builder until you actually close. So if you are living in your house, cool, you go and you move into your house and you pay the builder. This was $1,290 every single month. So I'm paying the builder $1,300 every month. And that's until closing. So that was September 2019, and I didn't close until May 2020. So every month I owed my builder $1,300. And if I total that up, that's about $9,000 that I paid as occupancy fees. And this does not go towards the cost of the property. This is just a fee that you're paying because you have the luxury of living in the house. The good thing is that during occupancy, you can also have tenants in your property. Again, check your contract. Not all of them allow this, but for my property, I checked this in advance that I could have tenants in my property during the occupancy period. So once I got the keys and I did the walkthrough in September, I actually decided to look for a tenant. So I tried to do it myself initially, but the property is a bit far from my house. So I think in October, I decided to hire a property management company to find tenants for me. That is another cost that you have to consider. So if you are not close to your house and you're not able to do showings for your house, or you just don't have the energy or time to do that, you are gonna have to hire someone in order to find tenants for you. So that's what I did. One thing I'll say is you really need to figure out what their rates are and what they actually charge. Like they say first month's rent, but it's not just first month's rent. They charge you first month's rent, HST, and then some other fees like administration fees. Like some people do, some people don't. So make sure you are clear about what fees they're charging you. So that was the next fee. In October, I gave them the keys. They started trying to find tenants for me. But in the October to December range, it's actually pretty hard to find tenants usually. We had a few offers, but I wanted to make sure it was the right people because, this was a big deal for me. So during this period, it's very hard to find tenants because no one really wants to move during Christmas. A lot of people go on vacation during this time, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, during this time, I did not have any tenants. So basically I was paying that $1,300 occupancy from my own pocket. I didn't have any tenants to pay for it, which is something like you need to be prepared for. If you don't have tenants in your property, you are the one responsible. Remember, it's your property. So don't buy a property just for sake of buying a property and you're like, oh, my tenants will cover my mortgage, my bills. They will, hopefully, when they're in the property, but you have to account for the fact that sometimes they may not be in the property. So in January, my property management company finally found me a tenant and they found a family to rent it. So during the time when my property management company was looking for a tenant, remember during this time you still have to pay for that house, not only the occupancy fee, but you also have to pay to be heating the house and having water flow through the house, because although no one is living in the house, they're still going for showing, so they're going to be showing the house, walking through. You want it to be a decent temperature, and also you just don't want your house and your pipes to freeze over by switching everything off. So yeah, I had the heat going. It was expensive. It's not cheap. So another thing to factor in, if you don't have tenants, your house still has to run. So that was about $100 a month, water, gas, and hydro. So I had 3 bills that I had to pay, and it totaled up to about $100 per month. And yeah, I was paying that out of my own pocket as well. In January, my property management company found a person to rent, or a family to rent the house. I came there and met them. So that is actually another cost, like driving from where you live to the property if you want to meet your tenants. Some people don't care to meet their tenants, but I wanted to meet mine, so I did. And yeah, that was another cost. Again, your property management company may decide to charge you extra costs. Like they want to charge me a fee if they were to do the walkthrough for the tenant. They wanted to charge me like a whole bunch of nonsense, honestly. So I would say make sure that you look at the contract with your property management company, because sometimes they're just adding random fees that really should not be there. So I had to pay my property management company $2,200 in order to get them. So that was like the rent, the HST, and then some extra random fees that they were charging me. Yeah, it is what it is. And then those tenants signed a 1-year lease. Their rent was about $1,890. $1,890 for the property. So they were paying me $1,890 each month. That first month's rent is not mine, it's actually the property management company's. So I would say January is a write-off. February is where I actually started getting money. So So thankfully my tenant's rent was more than the occupancy fee. So this was good. It covered the occupancy completely, and it also, I no longer had utilities to worry about because because they were living there, so they would pay utilities. So it was a pretty good deal. I was happy with the rent that I was getting. So next we're gonna talk about getting a mortgage and the costs associated with getting a mortgage. Who knew? But basically, when you go to the bank and you get a mortgage, I just went to my bank, but you can go to a mortgage broker if you want. I went to the bank and they told me that, okay, they don't charge you any like administration fees to start doing processing for the mortgage, but what they do charge you is an appraisal fee, because they have to go and see what the what the value of the property is. So I could say, oh, this property is worth $347,000. That's what the builder told me. That's what I'm paying for it. But then they can appraise it at whatever they deem is the value. So they actually appraised it at more. So it was like $410,000 by the time that they appraised it, which was good for me. They see that and it depends, and that impacts how much they will loan you as well. So typically there's an appraisal fee, and at the bank that I went to, it was $300. I personally was about to pay it, and my dad was like, no, just ask them if they can waive the fee because you're a loyal customer of this bank. And they actually did waive that $300 fee. So I would say just ask your bank if they can waive the appraisal fee, and in my case they did. It was no hassle at all. Next we go into the big expense, and this is during closing time. This is the down payment. So the property was closing in May of 2020, and I put down 20% of the property price because I had to, because as an investment property, if it's not your principal residence, you have to put down 20%. You can't put down any less. If it is a principal residence, you can put down 5 to 20%, but you'll just have to account for CMHC insurance that you'll have to pay. So my 20% plus the $10,000 minus the $10,000 deposit that I had already put was $68,000 that I had to put down. I had to sell my Shopify shares to pay for this house, and it pained me, but I was like, wow, it's great that like I bought Shopify at so little and it actually like turned into a lot of money, and it basically paid for my down payment. So I sold my shares, and it was about $68,000 that you had to put down. But I also had to pay HST on the property because it was not my principal residence. So what happens is you then have to pay, if it's your principal residence, you don't pay HST. I think the builder will pay HST, and then the government will refund the builder. But in my case, if you are using it as an investment property, you have to pay the HST up front, and then the government will refund you the HST a bit later. So the HST was actually about $26,000, which is a lot of money. But this is something you have to cough up, and then they will refund you at the end. So they will refund you that $26,000, but it took them 6 months to refund me my money. It took other people I know 1 month, a few weeks. So I don't know how they decide how they're gonna refund money, but they basically got an interest-free loan for me for $26,000 for 6 months. If you're still watching and you're enjoying this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up, and please let me know which costs that I just said, or that I've said so far, is the most shocking to you. Like, which one did you not know about? Which one did you not even consider? Or which ones, when you purchased your property, had you shook? Let me know. Next, at closing, you have to factor in all of those closing fees. So from all my research and what everyone says, the average of your closing fees is 1% to 4% of the property. And when I say closing fees, I mean things like lawyers' fees plus disbursements, plus your land transfer tax, plus home inspections, plus all of these different things. Thankfully for me, my mom is a real estate lawyer, so I did not have to pay legal fees, thank God. But you do have to pay disbursements. So if you're paying for like the title search that they do to make sure that your property does not belong to some random person, then you have to pay for registration. So there's a cost for them to actually register you on title. And then there's a title insurance premium that you have to pay for. Also, if you are a non-resident in the country, you do have to pay a non-resident sales tax. I think it's about 15%. So it is expensive, but you can get a rebate if you do get your permanent residency within 4 years of purchasing your house. But let's go back to the closing costs. Again, it's 1 to 4% of the cost of the house. Also, land transfer tax. There's a whole calculation to calculate your price for your property. I will leave it on the screen here so you can see the calculation, but my price was about $3,680 for land transfer tax. You can actually get a rebate if it is your first home. So it was my first home, so I got a rebate on my house, and the rebate is up to $4,000. Because my land transfer tax was less than $4,000, obviously they don't just give me $4,000, they give me the amount that I paid in land transfer tax. And also, again, during your closing, you can also do a home inspection. I personally decided to opt out of a home inspection, but if you do decide to do it, I didn't opt out. I did it myself with my parents because it was a new build and I have Terry on and there's lots of warranties, you know. It's typically between $450 and $1,000 if you choose to use a professional home inspector. So I didn't do that, but that is another cost to consider. Remember, this is the biggest purchase of your life, so I think it is definitely a wise decision to hire an inspector. And then, okay, property is finally closed. My name is on the deed. It is mine now, right? All good. No more costs except the mortgage. So I thought. Well, I didn't think that, but like, you know, I think that's what a lot of people do think. So the first cost that you have to think of is your mortgage. Thankfully, my mortgage and my occupancy fee are literally the same, so there was no change. It was the same amount, about $1,290 coming out of my account every month. And yeah, that's the first cost. That's the most important cost. I'm sure most people think about this one, but then you also have to consider your monthly condo fee. So if you do have a condo, there's typically a condo fee, and that's something you should consider when you're looking into the property, like what costs are associated with this property. So I have a condo fee. It is about $190 a month, which I heard is very cheap, but some people pay $300, $400, $500 a month. So make sure your condo fee is not too ridiculous that it doesn't even make sense. I chose to go with a condo because it's easier for a first-time home buyer because the condo corporation is taking care of your property basically on the outside. So when I had window cleaning, the condo corp pays for that. If my roof needed to be fixed, the condo corp pays for that. If the deck needs to be fixed, the condo corp pays for that. So I think there is a lot of value in dealing with a condo corp. Obviously, it has to be one that is well run. But yeah, it's $190 a month. And of course, that's just built into the rent that I charge my tenants. And then I also, at closing, got home insurance, just because you want to make sure that your home is protected. So I think it can be protected millions of dollars, like just in case there's any damage, your home will be protected by this insurance. It's about $1,000 a year, I believe. Something along those lines. It's expensive, it's not cheap, but it is definitely worth it in case there's a flood, a fire, something along those lines. Then we come to property taxes. These things pained me. It pained me. To receive that bill in the mail, it hurts. It really hurt. So this was really a slap in my face, but I've heard that when I spoke to my friends who are homeowners, they were like, oh, that's all you pay in property taxes? So maybe I'm lucky. Maybe I'm actually lucky to only pay this much. In February 2021, I was hit with my first property tax bill, and then so that was $590 that I got, and then a $67 property tax bill a little bit later on. And yeah, so I paid that, and I was like, okay, I'm done paying taxes for 2021. But that was actually the property taxes for 2020 and the period of time when I owned the property during occupancy, right, into 2019. So then in June of 2021, just recently, I got another property tax bill, and this one hurt even more. It was $590, but that was due June 30th. Then they have another $590 due August, and then they have another $590 due in October. So it's good that they spread them out. Like, at least they don't say, okay, all $1,700 is due now, or $1,500 is due now, but like, that's expensive, bruh. It's not cheap at all. Property taxes are something you do need to pay. You must pay them, or else your house someone can just, you know, snatch up your house. So I would say make sure that you pay your property taxes above anything else. Next, another cost that I did not expect, because you know, when you get tenants, typically ask them what their time horizon is to stay in your property, etc., etc. They said, oh yeah, long term, because our kids are going to school nearby, so I'm very excited for them to live in this property, blah 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 blah. But they actually were planning on purchasing their own house. They just didn't tell me that because they probably knew that, you know, most landlords won't go with you if they know that you're going to be moving on shortly. So in December, they decided to give me notice that at the end of January they would be leaving. I think people think that, oh, it's so good that like you can just get tenants in. They think it's so good that like, oh, if your tenant leaves, you can now increase the rent and blah, 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 blah. But honestly, I think I would rather just have tenants that stay for years and years rather than increasing my rent and having to find new tenants every year, because it's a very time consuming process. It is a very expensive process, especially if you don't live close to your property or if you have to hire someone. Like it's just not worth it. I would rather have someone who stays long term. That's maybe a personal opinion. And you also have to think, you have to transfer all the utilities back into your own name when your tenants leave. So like, it's a lot. I'd rather just have someone who stays in the property long term. So my tenants, as I said, moved out in the end of January. So then I drove to London. Again, another cost of my gas. And then I had to clean the property. I probably could have just hired someone to clean it, but I don't know. I decided I wanted to do the walkthrough and clean the property myself. And then I hired a realtor as well. So, again, I decided not to go with the old property management company because they charged me random fees that I did not agree with. I went through this with this realtor. She charged me first month's rent and HST. That is all. Nothing more, nothing less. Just that, which is what I like. If you need a realtor in the London area, let me know. I can recommend her. So because I moved out in January and so February 1st, I got the realtor in there to start finding new tenants for me. So then I had to get the utilities transferred back into my name, which was like $100 for the month to pay for it again, because again, you need to keep it running even if someone is not living there. And then my realtor found a person within that month, and on March 1st they moved in. And then I had to again pay last month's rent to my realtor and then pay her HST. Another cost that I didn't mention is the cost of like just things to have your house up and running. So I put in some, I don't know, what did I put in? Like blinds. When we were showing the house, I put in blinds, like just basic blinds from like Home Depot, but blinds. And then also furnace filters, just because I want my tenants to take care of the place and take care of the furnace. But you know, when it's not your house, you may not feel the need to go above and beyond. So I purchased a pack of like 5 furnace filters and ask them to put it in the house and change it every 2 months. That costs about $90. So those are extra miscellaneous things that I had to consider. And the last cost would be, this one is extra, you do not need to do this, but my tenants did not have the best credit out there, but they were they wanted to build their credit. So I decided to work with them and I said, okay, if you sign up for the Landlord Credit Bureau, then I'll choose you to rent to. So that basically means that every time they pay on time, I will report it to Equifax, and then they will, basically it will help boost their credit every single month. So they were more than happy to do this, and this gave me assurance that they're gonna pay me every month on time. This cost about $200, but I decided to swallow that fee myself simply because I can expense it at the end of the year. So I decided to take on that fee. As you can see, a house is not just the mortgage payments. There's so much more. I think property tax is the main one that just pains me. But then maintenance costs, if anything happens to my house, bruh. God willing, nothing happens, but you know, there are some things happen and you have to be ready to pay for those if your condo corp or your warranty will not cover them. So I hope this was a very helpful video. If you have more questions, or if there are any other costs you would like me to break down when it comes to owning a property, just let me know in the comment section. I'm willing to answer your questions. And yeah, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.